remember the first video game that ever captivated you? I'm not saying the first game you've ever played, but the first game that stimulated your mind in such a positive way that made you a lifelong fan of the medium? For me, that was this game right here, Mario Party 4. A bit of an odd one, I know, but it really has left a monumental impact on my life. I remember being 4 years old when I first got my GameCube, and the very first game I ever played was a SpongeBob game that I could never really wrap my head around, quite frankly. I guess platformers were too advanced for me at the time. But then I played this, and all of a sudden, I knew my life was going to change forever. It's because of this game that I became a Mario fan and a gaming fan as a whole. And now the game that made me the person that I am is 20 years old, with the GameCube itself being 21. Yep, you heard me correctly. The GameCube can legally drink now. However, the passage of time does bring with it an interesting challenge. This was my childhood game, and it holds a great amount of importance to me as a result. But I've obviously played way more games since then, and on top of me just becoming older and wiser, I'm much more critical of design flaws these days, and replaying this game really showed off a lot of the cracks in its design that I never really realized back then. And that's the big question. Can I still love this game as a grown adult and reclaim the magic I got from it as a kid? Or is it better left as a distant memory? Well, that's what we're about to find out in today's very special video. I'm Matthew Smart, and this is Mario Party 4. So what is Mario Party? That's like asking what's World War III. To put it simply, Mario Party is a board game where you and 3 other players compete to try and become the superstar. Nobody knows what that means, but everyone desperately wants the title anyway. Give something unimportant a label and it's suddenly treated like a Bible. The series was originally developed by the now defunct Hudson Soft, who had prior experience working on franchises like Adventure Island and Bomberman. Because naturally I'd let the company that deals with explosives handle my Mario board game, they're basically just as chaotic. And they were serious about this franchise, as they released 11 different titles across both consoles and handhelds, all within 9 years. You'd think that caused stagnation super quickly, but no, each game did really interesting things to shake up the formula. For example, this one's about dreams, this one's about the time of day, and this one's about how Mario doesn't skip leg day. Mario Party 4 was the first entry on the GameCube, releasing on October 21st, 2002 here in North America, and later that year everywhere else. And considering that the GameCube was my first video game console, naturally this installment would be my entry to hell. Clearly the ads paint the game that way.
Mario Party 4. Because it's not a party until something gets broken.
And that's the reason why the dinosaurs went extinct. We open with a cutscene that shows the Mario crew just going about their day in a field that looks like it came pre-made with the engine, when something scary comes from the sky. A giant gift bag! See, I told you it was World War III. The bag makes its way towards Peach's castle before exploding and revealing the party cube. Ha! From there, the hosts come out and invite everyone inside the cube to party for their lives. Tell me, would you accept an invitation from a man that moves like this? If your answer is no, then you're simply just not hip with the times, Grandpa. Funny enough, as of this video, this is the only Mario Party game to use full motion video for a cutscene, rather than just making them through the game's engine. It adds a nice amount of charm to it, even though it looks incredibly outdated by today's standards. Like, I was not kidding when I said Mario doesn't skip leg day. Next, let's talk about what truly makes a Mario Party player their own. The character they choose. Mario Party 4 has 8 characters to choose from, and they're pretty much the essential big boys of the franchise. Mario, Luigi, Peach, Yoshi, Wario, Donkey Kong, Daisy, and Satan. The gang's all here. I bring this up because when you're playing Mario Party, you own the character you play as. They basically become a personality trait for yourself. For instance, I would always play as Yoshi because I always found his demeanor to be super adorable, and I've mained him in every Mario Party game before and since. So if you pick Yoshi in a Mario Party game that I'm participating in, I mean, that's fine. Everyone deserves to love the green dinosaur. I won't judge. Out loud. The theme of the game is that it's the player character's birthday, and the party cube's hosts are there to celebrate and give them special presents. But they don't come easily, as they force you to play on the boards they built and win at them in order to get your gifts. And even after you do that, you still have to beat them in their own minigame, despite them already showing you the box. Talk about greed. Why do I have to work this hard for a gift on my own special day? And look at Shy Guy, he doesn't say a single word to you. He knows you're in for cruelty, and he revels in it. But we have no choice in the matter, so we might as well party and hopefully not play hide and go boom along the way. Let's finally dive into the game proper. The goal of a Mario Party match is to collect more stars than your opponents by moving to various spots across the board. How far you go is determined by a dice roll each turn, and after everyone moves, a minigame will commence, and the winner will earn coins that they need to afford the stars. After all the turns are up, whoever has the most stars is crowned the party star. It's a tried and true formula that's easy to understand, but just competitive enough to make every game heated. You can have the best game in the world, and then at the last minute, someone will turn the tide and say, "Money? You never had money! That was all mine! Here, have a floss pick as a consolation prize." Mario Party has always been considered the friendship destroyer, and while I definitely think that's an over-exaggeration, it's really silly to cut ties with someone over a video game. With how easily a player can get screwed over for no reason, it creates a sense of chaos and nonsense that no other Nintendo game can offer. Not even Super Smash Bros., which I'm aware is a very bold claim. Mario Party is brutal in all the right ways, and that's because of the blend of luck and strategy that's prevalent across all the entries. However, this is where Mario Party 4 starts to show its cracks. The game has 6 boards to play on, including an amusement park, a dense jungle, a tropical resort, a haunted graveyard, a hectic casino, and the unlockable Bowser board. I like all these themes. They're very distinct from one another in terms of gimmicks and color palettes, and considering that this was the first Mario Party game on more advanced hardware, the boards are all in 3D instead of just being a flat texture like in the Nintendo 64 games, and as a result, come to life a lot more. That said, for some reason you're not on ground level with the boards and instead are put on these thin gray pathways above the landscapes. It's kinda lame, but since this was their first 3D outing and they were just learning the hardware, it's excusable. These boards are also huge, arguably the largest in the franchise. I can see the benefit in that since that means there's more things to do and thus more crazy events that can happen. I would be more okay with that if the boards themselves didn't actively hate me. Yeah, the boards are easily the weakest part of the game. Not only does it take a while to get to where you want to be, but there's a ton of elements that actively waste everyone's time if you're unlucky. Arguably the most egregious example are infinite loops, where you're trapped in a circle and need very good luck in order to get out of it. Let's use the board Goomba's Greedy Gala as my example. In the middle of the board, there's a roulette you can spin that'll take you to one of 4 corners of the map. You can pay the Goomba to net a higher chance of going down the path that has the star. It's a cute idea, but the board's design makes the execution abysmal. So I go down the bottom left path, which is great, that's where the star is, but you'll notice it's a very tiny rectangle. And the only way to get out is to either have a mini mushroom on you and get a high enough roll to go through the mini pipe, which I'll touch on more in a bit, or pray to the heavens that you get a lower dice roll than the Goomba and get sent back to start. My opponents were stuck down there for nearly the entire game. Or another example, Bowser's Gnarly Party. More like Bowser's Farty Party, am I right? There's these bridges that you can walk across, but after they're passed 3 times, they fall apart and rebuild on the other side of the junction. So if you're unfortunate enough to be the last player to cross the first one, you have a decent chance of being forced through this loop 3 times before you can make any progress. All but 2 of the boards have issues like this, and it makes maneuvering around them far more tedious than they should be. I know it's a board game, player agency isn't exactly the top priority, but infinits like that where you have no control over where you go makes the game feel like a mindless chore if anything, rather than a fun challenge. Even the more unique gimmicks can hinder things for no good reason. For instance, in Boo's Haunted Bash, there's a red Boo in the middle of the board that'll disappear alongside the transparent bridges if you say hello to them, and will only come back if you say hello once more. Again, a solid concept, but then you make the star only accessible on a path that requires going down a bridge, and this, ladies and gentlemen, is what we consider the true meaning of Halloween. Pain! I enjoy elements of the game's design. The lottery shop is a neat addition where you can bet your money to try and win big, and naturally lose every time just like the real lottery. And there are unique board mechanics that are charming, like the roller coasters in Toad's Midway Madness, the dolphins in Koopa's Seaside Soiree, and the almighty Shy Guy statue in Shy Guy's Jungle Jam. But they are not enough to save such mediocre board design, and it doesn't help that the items don't do them any favors. Item shops are scattered throughout the boards, and these let you purchase stuff that can give you the upper hand, like a war pipe that lets you swap places with a random player, a chomp call that moves the star to another spot, and a magic lamp that sends you directly to the star courtesy of a genie cosplaying as an American. But then there's the Mega Mushroom and the Mini Mushroom. These 2 items define what a Mario Party 4 session is, and there's tons of mushroom spaces that'll grant you one of the 2, so they're pretty important. They're essentially an evolution of the regular mushroom from previous games, and by evolution, I mean dumped into acid and warped into abominations. The Mega Mushroom makes you grow giant and gives you 2 dice blocks to roll instead of 1, or 3 if you're using the super version. And if you pass another player, you squish them and steal 10 coins from them. That, in concept, is cool. It gives into my primal urge to squash the souls of the innocent. But here's the catch. Because you're so huge, you end up bypassing a lot of board events, which by itself is annoying, but forgivable. But you also bypass the star when it's in use, and I'm sorry, that takes things way too far. You shouldn't be punished this hard just for using an item made to traverse longer distances, and it turns what should be a really cool upgrade to regular mushrooms into something that's way too situational and can put you in an even worse position if you roll too high. I don't have many compliments for the Mini Mushroom either. With this, you'll shrink down to the size of an ant, and your dice roll is cut in half unless you're using the super version, which lets you roll up to 10 again. This will allow you to access mini games across the boards, or as I mentioned before, go through mini pipes that take you to special areas. Again, a sweet idea, but just like the Mega Mushroom, it's far more situational than it needs to be. The mini pipes act more as a hindrance than an advantage, since unless you're 1 spot away from the junction, you have to get a high enough roll in order to use the pipe. And if you undershoot, you're out of luck unless you have another Mini Mushroom on you. And the fact that they'll sometimes put stars behind the pipes means that unless someone has a chomp call or magic lamp on them, they're likely gonna stay there until the heat death of the universe. There's so much potential you could create with these 2 items, and the fact that they're now series staples in other Mario games shows their worth. But here, they end up making already tedious boards even more of a hassle than necessary. There's a reason why they never returned in later games and just went back to using mushrooms the way God intended. Look, I know I'm coming off like I hate this game with a passion, and I do, but it's more of a love-hate relationship if anything. This game is psychotic and unfair compared to many of the other entries, but that ironically enough makes winning that much more satisfying. Pushing through all the nonsense and still coming out on top in the end will always be rewarding, and the game has so much charm in its locales, animations, and just the little things in general that make it worth coming back to for me. It's definitely a lot better when you're playing it with friends in the same room instead of doing what I did and chugging through the story mode. At least then you'll be able to laugh at all the inconveniences everyone's going through, and the fact that these boards can be so annoying can make them more fun in multiplayer. It's funny how that works. But of course, that's only half the story. While the boards may be the stake of the experience, it's the minigames that make the meal complete. Minigames are such an important part of Mario Party as they serve as nice breaks from the boards to keep them from getting monotonous, they're where you'll earn most of your money to stay ahead of the curve, and they're just fun time wasters in their own right. There are some people who play Mario Party for nothing but the minigames. I don't associate with those people, but it goes to show just how vital they are to the experience. There are a total of 43 minigames that can be encountered through normal board game play, which is kind of a massive downgrade compared to Mario Party 3 and its 68 minigames. However, Mario Party 4 is praised for having one of, if not the best set of minigames in the franchise. And yeah, it's definitely up there for me as well. I'd say that every Mario Party up to 5 is a contender for having the best minigames, and 4 in particular gave birth to so many iconic ones that it's impossible for me to cover them all without making this video the length of a movie. So I'm just gonna highlight a few of my favorites. I'll always remember Paratrooper Plunge, as it was the first minigame I ever played. Skydiving down to a secluded island while collecting money along the way is an exhilarating feeling unlike anything else. Photo Finish makes you fill the puzzle pieces of a little picture before your rivals can, and any minigame that allows me to dance with schmoovin' penguins when I win is automatically a keeper in my book. Get this man on Dancing with the Stars immediately. He's got my vote. Slime Time was my favorite as a kid because I just found the giant blobs you were stuck to kind of adorable. It's the little things that comfort you amongst the frustrating button mashing. I'm a sucker for basketball, and 3-throw lets me imagine that I'm as good as Michael Jordan for 30 seconds before reality sets in. Space Jam 3 will be mine someday. Butterfly Blitz makes you think about depth perception as you have to catch butterflies at different height trajectories. It's really cute and colorful. Trace Race really tests your precision skills as you have to trace over a colored line with a crayon as accurately as possible. This work really does belong in a museum. Dungeon Duos is probably the most elaborate minigame in the entire series. It's an ultimate test of button mashing, luck, and platform maneuvering. It's a very long minigame, but oh so satisfying when you conquer it. Poor guys went down the pipes as soon as you won. They're stuck there now, and they're gonna smell even worse than their garlic breath when they get out. Order Up is one of the best memory minigames as you have to locate the food items that Toad wants inside the boxes after they're done spinning. Yeah, I don't want a burger and fries, I want 2 fries. It fits my diet plan. Reverse-A-Bomb is frantic as all can be since you're at risk of being blown to smithereens if you don't press the buttons in time to, well, reverse the bombs. You know what they say, if you can't beat them, explode them. However, if I had to pick a favorite minigame today, I'd probably give it to Book Squirm. This one gets awarded its flowers all the time, and considering most gamers would never pick up a book in their lives, that's saying something. You run around this giant book that's constantly having its pages turned, and you have to go through the holes in said pages to avoid getting squashed. I love endurance-based challenges like these, and this is one of the more frantic ones as the pages turn faster and faster until it's nearly impossible to make it out without becoming a pancake. I think the developers knew how great this minigame is too, as there's an extra version of it that's all about how many pages you can survive before getting your comeuppance. 22 pages before dying. If I ever write a script that long, please recommend a doctor for me. I'd need a special kind of help. Not every minigame is created equally though. The 1 vs 3 minigames in particular are pretty weak. They're usually boring at best and completely one-sided at worst. If you're in the middle during making waves, enjoy your free money. We're providing the entertainment and yet we're supposed to pay you apparently. The Mushroom Kingdom economy is a scam. And out of all the minigames they could have brought back from a past installment, why did they choose Bowser's Big Blast? This is the most anxiety-based minigame in the franchise, since you have to push levers and hope you don't get bombed out of the factory and kill the frame rate in the process. Part of me loves it for its frightening factor, but I dread it for the same reason. Play this with friends and everyone will claim it's rigged. It's awful, but the funny kind of awful. This was also the first Mario Party game to include Bowser minigames where you'll get roasted mercilessly if you make the wrong move. Ah yes, I need 2 oranges, but I don't need 3. I'm scaly, not scurvy. Overall, the minigame selection is great despite the filler here and there, and you even have the option to make a custom set list of minigames so that you'll only encounter the ones you enjoy on the boards and never have to play the ones you don't. This is an amazing feature, and I'm surprised it was only ever included in this one game when there's already such a small pool of minigames to pick from. I really hope they bring this back in future games. And I haven't even gone over the extra room yet. Here you can play special side games that are separate from the usual board and minigame fare. There's a couple of bonus boards that utilize the Mega and Mini Mushrooms, but there's no stars or minigames, and your goal is to have the most coins after a set number of turns. I don't know why anyone would want to play these more than once, since the boards are extremely boring when you strip the core of the game from them. But there's also a handful of exclusive single-player minigames all about trying to nail high score, and these are actually pretty fun. These include a more elaborate photo finish, playing 50-50 with Bowser, avoiding the enemies, becoming the enemy, and living a day in Arizona. So living a day as me. The most interesting one to me is Mushroom Medic. One of 5 patients is sick, and you have to figure out who needs medicine based on who has the different heartbeat, which is determined by how your controller rumbles when you hover over them. It's a really cool way to utilize a feature on a controller that I don't tend to think about otherwise. I also just love how dramatic the deaths are when you fail. New record! You killed the shy guy! You're going to jail! Man, no wonder he didn't speak to me when I entered the party cube. He knows where the body is hiding. Speaking of which, let's finally wrap things up and touch on the story mode exclusive bits. Assuming you won a board and don't have to replay the entire thing, the host of the board will give you a birthday present, but not before you beat them in a special duel minigame that they created. And I kinda wish they were playable in the normal game. Gambling your life savings in a ridiculous poker match aside, these are all fun in their own way. And considering how Mario Party 2 and 3 had duel minigames of their own, it's a shame they're not included in normal play here. My favorite would have to be Archaeologus, which tasks you to find the odd one out from a series of spinning shapes. Man, and I thought the boulder from Indiana Jones was deadly. After you beat the minigame, you finally win the present from the host that's then displayed in a separate room from there on out. And once you finish the 5 main boards, Bowser breaks in and claims to have stolen all of your gifts, leading you to play on the pain train before going against him toe-to-toe in an actually really cool final boss fight. You're dropped into a giant lava cube, and you're tasked to explore every side of it by going through fiery platforming challenges, solving slide puzzles in a nice callback to Super Mario 64, and finally defeating Bowser by ground pounding these buttons to form a triangle that summons lightning if he's caught in the middle of it. They didn't need to do all this, but it shows just how much the developers want to end the game on a high note. After you beat him, he reluctantly drops a Bowser-themed present for you, and his henchling, the Koopa Kid, admits that he never stole anything and that he might have a heart after all. It's a cute little way to end the story mode and shows that Bowser's just kind of one of the guys. But then Toad comes out and says there's one last person that wants to give you a very important gift. I remember when I encountered this screen for the first time as a kid, feeling so satisfied after finally conquering one of the most important games to me. I felt like what I was about to witness would be heavenly. Toad points up to the sky, only to reveal one of the magic stars I collected on my journey. I stare at it blissfully, knowing that this was going to build up to something truly special, with all my hard work being rewarded in this one fleeting moment. After taking a breather, the star moves out into the stratosphere and starts glowing profoundly, and then this happens. When I saw that cutscene for the first time as a kid, I cried. Both tears of happiness and sadness. Happiness because seeing that giant constellation of my favorite character in the sky alongside the beautiful music was such a touching way to end my journey. And sadness because I thought that I was never going to be able to see something like that ever again. You have to remember that this game came out back when websites like YouTube weren't exactly commonplace. And even when they weren't these infinite resources of information like they are today. So when you see something like that you can't just easily search up again, it sticks with you. And when a work of art manages to evoke that much of a powerful reaction out of you, that speaks volumes to its meaning and proves its value. One of the worst parts of growing older is going back to something you loved as a kid and realizing that it's not as great as you thought it was. And that can lead to misery if you don't have the right mindset. I'm sure you could tell by now that I don't think Mario Party 4 is this masterclass in game design, and I'm not expecting anyone to go out of their way to play this game themselves. There are other entries out there that are much better at being engaging and fair for everyone. I would even go as far as say that 4 is probably the weakest console entry in Hudson Soft's lineup, aside from the first game, but that's a whole other can of worms that maybe I'll talk about someday. However, I would be lying if I didn't believe this game still means the world to me. As I mentioned early on, this was my first Mario game, and the game that made me a lifelong fan of the medium. Everything from the iconic characters to the worlds they explore to the activities they participate in still resonate with me at my core and will continue to do so for as long as I live. Nostalgia is funny in how it has the power to make you appreciate works of art in a way that anyone else would never understand because of the connection you made with it and what it meant to you then. Whenever I play a game, watch a movie, or hear a song that I was addicted to as a kid, I'll always feel a strong sense of dopamine and happiness from it, even if I know the product itself isn't that great. Mario Party 4 is exactly the same way for me. I know it's not amazing, but it's the connection I made with the game and where it would lead me in life that make it a joy to revisit. I'll always love this game. I'm just always going to be really annoyed by it. But that's okay. Nostalgia is okay. As long as you're self-aware enough to know that most other people are never going to feel the same way that you do, and you try to keep an open mind towards future projects that share a similar DNA, I see no issue embracing what you loved from the past. I'm happy that I grew up with this game, and I'm happy to have all these amazing characters sticking by me throughout the course of my life. And for me, that's enough to make Mario Party 4 special. Wherever you guys go, I'll always be down to party.